Hello together. We are talking now about software update 3.8 and let's go in. We have a lot of subjects here to do and I will show you and introduce you through that software steps. Let's talk about first about the software installer and the database, what's new on that subject, and then about the scanners, Map 200, Map 400 or Map 200 400 Plus. Then about the Mind, the CAD software, and finally about Match and Motion, about the nesting software, and the Motion, the machine and the milling. So let's first talk about the installer, and it's now like that. If you start with the installation, you need a C3 account. This is now required, and the installation process will show that small window here on the bottom, and you have two options now. Either you have just registered and you type in your username and your password, or you click on the register button and then you start with registration. Let's have a small view on the homepage of Amann Gierbach, and here you will find on the service area here the C3 platform. If you click on here and you don't have an account yet, then you click here on register and type in your datas, and these are the datas you have to use for installation. During the installation process there is a scanner driver, a new driver here called FlyCap. This happens automatically. In detail we will look on that scanner features some pages after. In former versions it has been that the libraries of the TEs have been included in the installation file. Now these files are taken out and we only have a blank installation file, so if you have to use the Heraeus Kulsatis, for example, for the full denture module, you will download them separately on the C3 platform and add them after the installation. Also during installation process we have a redistributable package which is automatically added. Sometimes here I experience that it's necessary to have a new boot up of the system, and then the installation process starts automatically and continues with the processing. The options for the calibration of the scanner has now been a little changed, and we now type in during the process of calibration automatically the scanner calibration datas and calibrate with one step, which was before in two steps necessary. The separate components you can see here. We have, after the full installation of the 3.8, the extra module called M-Part. This is for the partial frameworks module. Then additionally, separately, the BDCreator Plus for making full dentures. Then the two libraries from Vita, from Merz and from Kulzer, and they run all as a separate installer downloadable from the C3 platform. Note that the software 3.8 should be installed first. Of course, this is required for the after installation of the single modules. And now let's go to the Ceramill Cockpit. In the database we have a new reconstruction type. It's called partial framework and it's in the category removables. The linked material is the selective laser melting SLM, which is not available in the M Center. I show you in the database how it looks like. When you look in here, just prepare a small case, click on 1.6, and here we have the partial framework. If you click on it, you see here we have the SLM material, and that's it. This means if you select this material, this produces a waterproof file at the end of your construction, which you can print or which you can mill. In the material category we have added some more materials for the Solid HD Plus, and these are the pre-shade blocks. Let's show them in the actual database. I click on 1.6 again and say it's an anatomic crown and select the Solid HD Plus, and here we see in the color tables we start from A1 up to D4, all the pre-shades now included in the database. And more materials added. We have here for the full denture modules the FDS system, full denture system, now integrated the Vita Vionic system and the Baltic denture system. You can see here we have two more buttons now for the selection. Let's see in the database here, if you create a full denture and you select the button full denture, you find here the three different options: Ceramill DWAX and Vita Vionic and Baltic denture system. for creating splints, bite splints in the Micro 5X. This is a dry milling machine. Here we have integrated the material splint deck, and therefore you need a special single cutter tool, a 2.5 millimeter tool, and with the help of that tool you can also mill splints in that machine with dry processing. This is nice, of course. It reduces the time quite down a lot, and then you have a splint in nearly 45 to 50 minutes. And more new materials added. For example, here we have for abutments now the Vita Inamic and the IPS Emax cut material. In the abutments now it's possible to drill some holes inside, so you put in the block and you drill a hole for gluing it with a titanium interface part to create abutments. The BDCreator software and the M-Part software, they get linked in the action bar after installation, so they are only activated if you have installed the software. Let's see here, normally they are not appearing here. You see here on right side M-Part and BDCreator, they only appear after installation of these modules. If you are in the database in the cockpit and you type in the construction types, you will see that we have now several tooltips in the database. For example, when you move the mouse over the copyings, you get additional information about every indication where you place the mouse. You get the informations. There is also a new layout on the progress, so the single steps for scanning, construction, upload or milling are now quite different. So if you open a case, you see on the left bottom here, scan is just done, the construction is done, and it's just milled in the machine. You see here upload button not active, it was not uploaded. And now one of my absolutely favorites here is the loading of the preview. When you now select more patients or old patients from days ago and you click on some of these, then you get the information about the patients, the notices, the indications which you have typed in, and this small preview window will not cover other patients, so you can drop through that single patient's cases and you always have the clear preview of all the data on it. Now let's go to the map software, and here is a nice feature now integrated, and it's called the triple tray impression scanning. I can show you here we have a very special holder in it, and with this holder you have the advantage to put in these triple tray impressions, and you see the holder is a special one. He can tilt it and it happens really fully automatically in the scanner. That upper and lower is scanned automatically from upper and lower side. So completely automated workflow. This flips from upper to lower side. Please note that this is only in combination with this special impression tray holder, and the upper jaw has to be directed to the mark. There is a small mark here which has a small arrow. It's here on the top here, this arrow symbol, and when you put upper to the symbol then you are in the right position. After you have finished the scanning process, you get a finished result. If something happens during the scanning process, you have to restart. There is no possibility of after scanning or rescans in the scanning procedure. The triple tray impression scanning default scan quality is set on very high. This happens in the settings automatically during the installation, and this holder is a little different between the 200 and MAP 400. When you have the MAP 200, it's a little lower size. If the MAP 400, it's a little higher sized. And it works with the base plate number 1 only. Don't forget that if you scan impressions that the design parameters has a need to be changed, the cement gap should be increased a little from 0.05 up to 0.1 to 0.15 millimeters, and the start of cement gap, which is default on 1.0 millimeters, should be a little lowered to 0.3 millimeters. All that videos about scanning with a triple tray you can look also on here. You find a link, and if you type in YouTube and you type in Amann Gierbach and triple tray, you will directly be guided to the video clips. Another nice feature for MAP 200 and 400 is the so-called multi-die scanning. This is a special new plate coming, and this plate allows now big cases to scan only in 2 scanning steps. This means the first scan is with the complete segments in the model in, and the second scan you put out all the segments and you place them on the plate, and then you have 2 scans. Doesn't matter how big is your work. This new multi-die holder is in combination with a universal plate. Don't forget to order this plate if you have the MAP 400. It comes automatically standard default with the MAP 200 or 200 plus, but customers, they have the MAP 400, they need this additional plate, and these both plates, they are put together and then inserted in your scanner MAP 200 and 400. The plates here are also in different heights. We have the MAP 200 a little lower and the MAP 400, the feet here are a little longer. Also some videos available here on YouTube. If you want to watch it closer how it works, then you look here on video and type in the multi-die scanning. In the MAP 200 and 400 you also have now the choice of scanning monochrome scans. This means when you put in some signatures, if you type in or paint on the patient's name, or you write down the 2 numbers on your model, then you can go in with the model and you can scan as monochrome. Means you can read these signatures on your model, the marks on the model. If you have the MAP 200 plus or 400 plus, you are now possible to make colored texture scans. I show you a small sample. Here you can see when you signature here with a red color, or here you have some stickers on your model, then you find here in color all the informations. When you load scan files which have color informations, then you see here we have a small button activated. It's called for the enable, disable the coloring, and if you disable, then you see it as a standard way. If you able again, then you have the color mode. To select if you want to scan monochrome or color, you could do that in the settings. It's in the very first window when you start in the scanning program that you find this button with the coloring, and you can select here either for the next scan, for the single one, or for everyone. Then you go in the settings menu. You know, this is the key symbol, and there you can define the scanning mode for global, monochrome or color. If you go in the rescan mode, now it's new that the shadowed areas which should be rescanned are not possible to scan, so you can immediately recognize which areas are scannable, which are not, and these areas which are not visible for the scanners, they are colored as a shadow. This helps you for the rescans. Just talked about the installation process when you start the scanner the first time and it's just not calibrated with the first calibration. You click here the start calibration button and you type in the 2 numbers. They are written directly on the scan body, on the scan object, and this is done only once a time with that numbers, and after that you can start the calibration, which is recommended once a week. The settings allows now in the scanner module to select the default presentation modes. So if you click on right side in the toolbar this wrench symbol and then you go in the settings, you can choose here either the every second to, this is the standard setting, or you can now select the multi-die scan. I just showed you the plate for multi-die and now you know what's about that. The default texture mode can also be set here. You can choose between off, this means classical one, or monochrome or color. So these are settings for global, for every continuing workflow. If you make a full scan of upper and lower in our transfer kit, it was sometimes necessary to have a 3-point alignment in. That's now gone. You don't have any more registrations of this fixator. And when you click on and you pass on to the next step, this situation, the moving of the both jaws, they are happening fully automatic. In case of a wrong alignment, if you mix the distant plates and you have made some mistakes, then you can easily create a one-point alignment, and you get a multi-view split screen. You click a single point on upper, you click a single point on lower, bring the both models in the same perspective, in the same view, and with a single click in upper and lower picture, then it fits automatically and makes the one-point alignment automatically. A small changing here is the program icon in the taskbar on the right side on the bottom of your screen. You will see that small symbol. This is shown during the scanner is working in background mode, in sleeping mode. Scanning now with Map 400 Plus is also possible with open door. Don't mind, you can now leave the door open during your complete procedure. And the 3D scanning speed has now really increased. You can feel that it's now cut down from 1.3 seconds to 0.7 seconds in a single speed rate. So you really feel that it's a really quick advantage now. Due to the new format and color information now, we have a new file format, a new file extension. You know, classically default we had the STL output, and now the file extension is called PLY. This means all these PLY files, they contain the color information or the texture informations. If you want to have STL output again like before, you can either choose STL plus PLY. It's not possible to have only an STL, so you can drop out both file extensions or only the PLY files. Why did that have a change? We have now a faster matching process with that file extensions, and this is really high relevant for textures and colors. If you load a PLY object, you will find in your CAD software an additional new button. This is like an eye here, and if you click on it, you will find it as a classical view here, for example, an antagonist in pink or violet color, and when you deactivate that button, you feel it like normal, and if you activate the button, you have the color informations of your PLY file. And that's now about the scanner. Let's pass now to the Ceramill Mind, to the CAD software. In the Ceramill FDS module, the full denture module, now we have the placement of the first big molar is on the really position of the deepest point of your ridge here. You see lower jaw here has the deepest point, and this is the right position for the static for the first big molar. There is another thing now. You get a notification if you have no space or too less space between your teeth and your jaw, your situation here. So you get a warning, and you have to do two options. You have two options. We will come to that later on. The gingiva borders now are really kept exactly. From time to time you had some really miracle things here around your necks here of the teeth, around the borders. That's now gone, that's history, and we have a nice here view of the gingiva forms here around the teeth. In the denture base bottom design, there was a remove of a slider. This was a blocking out slider. This is now set on a default value, and we don't have this slider anymore. Less information is sometimes more and easier to handle. Just talked about this information. If you have too less space here between your tooth and your plaster model, this is the warning message for the minimum thickness, and this happens if the tooth is too close. You have two options to choose. You can either take the freeform way, means that you lift on, you add more material here on the area which is shown in color, or you go in the tooth placement, you adjust the placement and would arrange another placement for the teeth. For example, also you have the choice to have the 1/7, the tooth, the option to follow with him or to continue without him, so you can leave the tooth out if you have no space for him. If you have finished your construction, we keep in the full denture system, then you have now the possibility, the choice to have a monoblock function. This means you get a data file which is dropped out directly to the matching software, and you can mill the complete data set, the teeth plus the base, in one block. This is available in a white wax, and then you can make a try-in with these monoblocks. As a note, these files are only outputted in the matching software, in a nesting software, they are not saved as OpenSTL files, of course. They have a copyright reason. And if you want to transfer them in the match, you have the two possibilities that you choose. You want to only mill the monoblock, or you will mill the monoblock and the rest of the parts, or you can cancel the nesting. Single tooth placement is now simplified. You see here in the version 3.6 we had a button for mesial and distal click, and we could move or tilt the tooth. Now here in the new version 3.8 you see here there is written some like a tooltip, which button of the mouse is for correction, for moving the tooth, which is for scaling or rotating. And then you have the choice here. If you go the next step, you go to an advanced placement, or you go to step on next. This means you jump over the next step if you only click on next, and if you want to place in advanced mode, then you are directed to another step where you can adjust your tooth much better. Then, if necessary, if you want to, you can click on correct mesial or distal. This opens another option of two buttons here, mesial and distal, and you see here on the small picture I have made a click on the mesial and distal tooth. This is a big advantage for the software. Of course, the library tooth is then calculated in the right dimension in the teeth between the adjacents. Mirroring or copying individual teeth now, it's possible. Not only the side standing teeth or opposite quadrant, you can now copy the tooth you want to. It doesn't matter if it's in the same jaw, if it's in the antagonist, or if it's somewhere outside in a situ, in a pre-op scan. And included with that function here we have the undo and redo function if you want to correct the placement of the tooth. Nice function for anterior teeth for provisional crowns. When you have deleted a tooth, or there is something missing in your bridge constructions and you will replace or change a tooth, in the 3.6 version, in the before version, you had always to replace every teeth together. Now here you can really load a default single tooth, and it's much easier for finalizing your reconstructions if you only want to change or add a single tooth. Making bar constructions, for example in Syntron material, you sometimes want to divide, you share, you split here your construction, and therefore now it's also possible to have the bridge split feature also now for the bar constructions. You see here we have the button here for moving or rotating, and then you can select your cut. You can make straight cuts or 3D-dimensional geometric cuts, and then you can cut big span bars in separate parts. This saves a little space in the milling process, and if you have a laser, it's easy to laser the material for Syntron. It's easier to handle, to make a fitting construction afterwards with less space in block. Another really nice thing here, we have waited a long years now on it, is the digital model management. That means if you open the articulation window and you start to move your models, you can now select which teeth are in function in the movement, in the dynamical movement of your articulator. And this happens by clicking on teeth, so the teeth are then selected by a single click, or you can make it as a painting tool. When you paint on the model, then you can select the parts you want to get in function. The brighter parts here are now in function, the rest, the darker parts which are painted, they're out of function. And this opens a big field now of the dynamic world we have prayed for years now, and that's a really important thing now to have it from analog also in the digital world. Besides, if you are not so familiar with that process and that steps which are around the virtual articulator, then please call us. We make an online training with you and go step by step through this software model, digital model management. And some more about the articulator parameters. You can see that there was a change of the values of the jaw movements. We have here the protrusion back from 5 to 4 millimeters. The retrusion is going to 0 now, and the lateral protrusions on both sides from 5 to 4 millimeters reduction. Of course, we have experienced that too long movements are not so good for your design, and if you want to change the parameters, you can open the movements drop-down menu, and here you find all these way length here for your movements. If you have a lot of overbite situations, sometimes you need really a very steep angle of your individual incisal table, and this was now increased up from 50 to 60 degrees. If you are leaving the wizard mode and you go in expert mode, you will find a context menu when you make a right click, in the background, and here you find the highlighted words here. This means the highlighted steps here are the next steps following after the actual steps you have just left now the wizard, and this would follow as a next. If you go back from expert mode to the wizard, you have the choice here to go directly in the step you are coming from, or you are directly passing to the previous step or the next wizard step. This opens much more flexibility when you jump between wizard mode and expert mode. For having a better view to your objects, your constructions, you have now nice cutting view tools here. I will show you in the construction. The first is when you click a right click in the cut view window. If you make a right click in the show or hide group, you see here it's on the left or upper edge. And if you click in the construction element during having opened the cutting tool. So let's show that here in practical demonstration. First, I want to have a cut through one of these elements of the anatomic, for example. I click here, a right click, and say show a cut here, and this opens directly the cut in the right edge. With the right mouse moving, I can move through my constructions. Then a second thing is, if I want to have the cut on another place, you make a right click on your element and you say here cut view and show the cut here. Then the cut jumps immediately to the other element, or you say okay, I want to have the cut somewhere completely else and tilt it. Then you make a right mouse click and tilt the cut view, like the main view, for example, to the y-axis, and then you have directly your model on the y-axis cut and you can pass through. Cutting function, if you have finished the cutting function window, which is also possible to move bigger and smaller here on the edge, then you click here on this button and this will close the cutting function. The plane shown during the cutting process has now two colors. We have a front side and the back side color. You see here front side a little darker and back side a little brighter. It's easier then to handle. The distances which are visualized here in this color box, I say this is kind of color box like a rainbow, shows you now much more information. We have a new checkbox called dynamic. When you open that window, you will find one checkbox. When you activate this box, every dynamic movement color of the models will be shown, and with one single click you can deactivate the color. The color window on right side, when you are, for example, working in the Engine module and you are free-forming your gingiva parts, the gingiva parts, then this will be temporarily disabled. That's quite normal. Don't worry if the color is deactivated for a second. This is quite that you don't get confused if you have opened the color window and you want to show colors for two special objects. So this window concentrates on one of them. During the construction process, when you are creating the insertion direction, you will find a kind of shadow. This right picture shows the real picture you see when you are creating the insertion direction, and you see a small shadow. This means when you tilt your model so far, you get a collision with your neighbor teeth. So this helps you also for finding the better insertion directions. Now we want to speak about the crown bottom milling and designing. We call it the margin high definition milling in the Match 2, and this is now important that when you plan to make a high definition milling at the margin, that you set the protected zone near the margin line up from 0 to around 0.8. I want to show that in the practical demonstration. We have a small crown here, and we are having a cut here on the margin side, and you can see here that there is a very small gap between the inner and outer side. Inner side is the die, outer side is the margin area from inside the crown, and the standard value here is at 0. This means the inside part of the crown bottom is milled with a 1 mm burr, and this 1 mm has a toolpath compensation which opens here a little that you have no disturbing area. But if you decide later on match to go on high definition milling on the margin area, you should increase now this value around up to 0.8 mm, and now I click on apply and watch this area here. What will happen? This area now is touched down to the die, and now you can mill that with a 0.3 mm tool we call high definition milling. Again here back in the presentation, block out protected zone here, lift up to 0.8, and in that combination with margin high definition you get the best milling result. Standard way, default way is here on 0, but if you plan to go on margin high definition, then lift up that value. Freeforming, cutting the intersections now has got a new button, and this button, this is also one of my favorites, is when you go through the freeforming adaptation. Before you have to click on Pontic and you cut the intersection on occlusal and on approximal, and you have to click through the 3 sections here followed by the click on cut. Now we have a button, it's called cut all intersections, and with one click you have the Pontic from basalt, you have the occlusal surface, and you have the approximal area, and everything is fine that you can continue to next step. Also in that window we have a checkbox. This is called the disc cutter. This allows to make approximal contacts as a straight surface. If you want to have that, then you can select that. And what's also a nice thing, if you have undercut in the adjacent teeth here, in the neighbor teeth, and you have a lot of material on your library tooth and you want to cut the approximal contacts, there could be some undercuts under. And if you select the checkbox block out neighbor collisions, then this is a straight downward 0 degrees blocking out skin on the adjacent teeth, which helps you to get a straight approximal contact with no undercuts. In the model builder module we have some new model types for printing. We can now choose here the hollow model printings. This means not a solid model. Of course this could cause trouble when it's shrinking down while the light curing process happens. Therefore you can create here hollow models, and you can adjust here the wall thicknesses here. Note that this is not available to manufacture in our M Center. Now some small further improvements. We have here the context menu. If you click on add the custom view and you have made a new custom view on the model, then you have with the right mouse click the option to show that view or to view from opposite side, and you can override the current view with the new view you see on your screen. You can even delete or rename the view. For saving your constructions, and you make a right mouse click on the saving button on the right edge on upper right side in the toolbar, then you find here the saving of the dental CAD app. This is the scene file, and this command will always guide you directly in the right folder of your patient. Some new buttons on the toolbar on the right side. We have a right mouse click on our saving button, and this now shows the save of the scene. The save of the scene as means you can type in your own name for the scene, or you can export it as a mesh. This is an STL file, or you can export as PDF or HTML. This is like a browser speech, and this is nice, of course, if you want to send the files to your dentist and he has only a browser but no 3D program to watch your files, and he wants to move the files and rotate the files to have a closer view. Then he can download, or you can send the HTML files and he can directly open it in the browser. And it's also possible to send the files over an special app. It's called the Web View. It's made from Exocad and it's available for Apple or for Android, so you can download on your smartphone and the dentist too, and then you can talk about the patient works which you have sent him before via email. And some more improvements. We have now a special symbol where you can see here when you load a scene, it's a turning symbol here. And on anatomic freeform improvements, you see that in the version 3.6 you have two choices here called radio buttons. You have the choice of free or occlusal only. This is now reduced down on only an occlusal only check box. This means check the box, move only occlusal, uncheck the box, make free movements with your teeth, with your cusp or tooth parts. During your construction process, if you want to correct the relation or the position of your models, you can now correct that at any time during the design process. You only make expert mode run and then you right click and you go on correct the jaw scan relation, and now you can see you can correct it in the height, in the position, and move even freely or align the meshes to somewhere else. It's also now a new option. A lot of people, they have power failures. They want to have automatically save possibility. Now when you open the settings here, you can check this box, auto saving the scene. This reduces the performance a little, but it makes you on a safe side. If some power failure will happen, then you have saved your scenes in every important wizard steps. If you click on your preparation line with a single click, the software detects automatically the preparation line, and if you wanted to move that point, you had to delete first and to click anew. Now you can directly go on that point and move it with your left mouse up or down, and it automatically detects the new position for the preparation line. Register mesh. If you want to move some models to somewhere else to synchronize something like a pre-op scan to a saw cut model or something else, now you have a bigger choice, now a bigger flexibility. You can move every parts to everywhere where you want. Even this new checkbox opens floating parts, outstanding, out positioned parts to move together, and you can select really every object you want to select and you can move it to another object. Hotkeys. This is something I just made with the freeform tool to add material or to smooth and flatten material. This is the key number 1 and the key number 2. I just made it in my program, the daily routine. Here you see when you go in the construction and you move the mouse over special parts, you will find hotkeys. I give you a sample for that. So if you move your mouse here on the antagonist, you find here on the checkbox, it's the hotkey A for antagonist, or on the jaw scan, this is the key number or numbered S. So if I type A, this is A, and if I type S, this is the scan. So with one single typing on the keyboard, I can activate or deactivate my single part of my construction. And if you have forgotten the keys, you can only move your mouse on this checkbox and you get the tooltip here for your hotkey. Especially for freeforming, that's interesting. For example, here, if you say freeforming something and you are in between free, add, remove, and smooth, I type the number 1, I type the number 2. Even if I'm on the model with the freeforming process, I can change between freeforming, adding with number 1 and number 2. That's a really nice thing and a quick thing for working in the design. The list of the hotkeys you find here on our wiki page. If you go in and grab this link here, then you will get a complete list of these hotkeys. Try it and start with doing it. This helps you really to save time in the daily working routine. So, and that was everything about the CAD software, the construction software. Now let's pass to our matching module, nesting software, Ceramill Match 2. What's new here? New materials in the Match software. We have here in our library for the full dentures here the blocks also now in PMMA. This is acrylic materials for the Vita Vionic bases. You see here we have two pink ones One is in PMMA, one is in a wax, that you can also mill monoblocks in it in wax bases here in wax pink, wax white, added here in the material list. Even for the BD loads for the Match Dental, the BDCreator Plus system, we have integrated here the blocks here with integrated teeth on it. So if you want to choose that blocks, you will find it in the Match library of the materials. In the HD Plus materials, the solid materials, which are really quite bright and translucent, we have the shape 71 and 98 in the heights 14, 16 and 20 millimeters in all the Vita colors, including the bleach color. And there are some new blocks for the solid FX multi-layers. We have a called C20, C stands for crowns, and the B40 for bridges. This is a quite new picture of my first tests here, and you see here the bridges with a special milling strategy. It's holding on the last connector here, and you can drop it with your fingers, then it's finished. You have the big blocks for bridges and small blocks for small crowns. Even if you decide to make single crowns, you can place 2 or 3 single crowns and mill them step by step in a B40 block. The holder for it, you can either use the comp adapter. It's fitting for the slot 1 in the motion 1, micro 4x, 5x, motion 2 4x and motion 2 5x, all the generations. That's fitting inside the 71 holder. And you can use the holder, the 9 slot holder for motion 2 5x, also all generations, called the multi holder. This new 9 block holder, 9 slot holder, is for the motion 2 5x all generation, and you can mill these blocks. The C20 B40, this is the new holder. Note that this holder has a little bigger glued parts, the mandrels, they are looking a little different but fitting in the same holder. For nesting, full denture parts, when you go directly drag and drop or putting it from the library here in the nesting software, the generating of the connectors are now happening completely fully automatic. A new strategy called thrilling or drilling is now in. We have the both materials, Vita Dynamic and the IPS Emax CAT blocks. These blocks are straight and full, and when you are designing here a abutment with a hole for gluing here the titanium interface in, you drill the hole with your machines, available for the Motion 2 late 2016 and micro IC. There was a change of the tool set for the D set for the full denture system, and now we are using the Roto DMB DC. They have a white coated ring and they are now put for the D-set blanks. The tool abrasion was too high, therefore now we use the Roto DMB DC. The DMB-C means dry milling block diamond coated tools. And as for a small repeat, we had the margin high definition milling. Remember, if you plan to do that in the CAD program, protected zone near margin line, lift the value up from 0 to 0.8, click on apply, and then you can select in the milling software, when you create the milling path, the margin on high definition. For syntron materials, when you are creating your stabilizers, we have the ArgoVent 2.0. This is the bigger compartment made in silicon carbide material. Here you will find now the dimension of the ArgoVent 2, and you can check if the work is fitting in. And you have the picture of the float sinter disc 2.0, means you can check if your work will fit on the disc. But as you can see here, even if you place a big construction here, it will fit completely on this new compartment in the float sintering disc. The spindle cap now has a change. We have a 3.0 spindle cap with 3 nozzles where the spray of water comes out. We get a better cooling, and this pump capacity is now controlled via script in the matching software. We will see a picture when we come talking about the motion after some pages. Some tools in the Match software you know from the CAD program, for example the sectional view when you want to cut in some parts. Then you have a measurement tool. You can even now add pictures in a match tool. Sometimes it's nice to have that. Sometimes it's nice to measure some distances in between or to have a cut inside. So they have now put in some tools well known by the CAD program. Machine selection means if you only have one machine but you want to try how it feels like if I have a micro IC or if I have a 5X machine, then you can select in the settings the different kind of machines and you could try to calculate your milling paths. But remember, you could try, but you cannot send it to the machines. It's only for trying and testing that you feel at home with all these machines which are available in the portfolio. And that's all about the matching software. Now we come to the motion software. Motion, Ceramill Motion, what is new there? And we see here the first functionality is now the Wi-Fi function. You can put an antenna, you must order the antenna and you screw it on the back side of your machine, and then you can connect your machine with the Wi-Fi, so you don't need anymore the cables, USB cable or the LAN cables in between. New holder, it's called the 6A, and this is the holder for the BDS system, the Baltic Denture system. This holder, like the holder for the TI forms or for the full dentures, has to be calibrated. You see here for notches, for noses here inside, and they get calibrated that you place the block in the right position. If you place a new spindle cap to the motion tool, then you see they have 3 nozzles inside. This leads to a 360 degrees cooling of the grinders and the burrs, and this is a really 50% cost reduction due to the double life of your grinders. If you place that cap, don't forget you have to open the machine parameters in the motion program and you have to check the checkbox spindle lathe 3.0, activate that and click on apply, and then it's in with the right spindle cap cooling for wet processing. During the installation, at the beginning of the installation, you had to type in your email and your password for the C3 platform, for the customer center platform. If you connect after the installation the first time with your machine, you have to type in again your mail address and your password, and then you get in connection with the machine. This is now really a registration with a Ceramill called Flex. Setting the toolset, there is a new toolset called Roto Pink, and you use that toolset for milling full dentures. For a micro IC, we have a cleaning functionality now. When you go in the service menu, there's a movement and a service function where you can service your micro IC. Ethernet and USB communication has improved. That happens automatically with the software update. And that's it about the motion. Now let's talk about a new model integrated. It's called the M-Part module. This module has to be activated on the dongle. It has to be licensed, and it's the software module with the M-Part. Even here we have online trainings for that module. I will encourage you to book one of these trainings to get deeply inside. You see here on the side we have a big toolbar in the export mode. We also have a nice expert mode and wizard mode to lead you, to guide you through the construction. And at the moment, finally after end of construction, this is then suitable for printing or milling. At the moment we have no manufacturing yet, but wait for this year. There will be some more end of year where you can do more with that constructions. Some more words to the BDCreator Plus. We have the fully integrated now, the software. It's a separate module. If you activate, you need a license code, an activation code for it, and then you can create the BDCreator dentures, and the minimum required operation system is the Windows 10, the build 14393, so make sure that you have the latest updates run on your system. Even here we are offering online trainings. Visit our homepage, go to the trainings area, and there you can book online trainings for this module. No changes are in the map 100. It's no change since December 2011. then no change in the Map 300 and in the Match 1. That now is all the latest things in the software update. You see, it's a big package. I'm happy to have you introduced in the new features. I hope you enjoy, do the software update and work with that new features. And if something is open, if you have some more questions, contact us. And now on the other side, there was Thomas Gienger. Wish you a nice day. See you next time and bye bye.